Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind address the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine.
My first night outside Nigeria was spent in room 36 of Butler Hall, Monmouth, Oregon, United States. I checked into Butler Hall at about 6 in the evening of Sunday, March 24, 1974. 3 months later, on June 20, 1974, I began programming the CDC 3300. That was the first supercomputer to be rated at 1 million instructions per second. That supercomputer was marketed 7 years earlier as the world's fastest computer. By far, the most important contribution to the field of supercomputing is to attain a speed that was once impossible, and then to harness that new speed to solve the grand challenge problems arising in science and engineering. Such a breakthrough in computational mathematics, or the supercomputer solution of a grand challenge problem, is particularly worthy of being a benchmark in the history of the computer. That breakthrough is noteworthy if it changed the way we looked at the computer and the internet. With the supercomputer that communicates across processors and does so synchronously, and computes within processors and does so simultaneously, we now have answers to previously unanswerable grand challenge questions. But back in 1974, my unanswerable question was how to solve a large system of equations of algebra, and how to solve them across a new global network of 64 binary thousand processors that defined and outlined a new internet. On June 20, 1974, the day I began programming supercomputers, the number of computer scientists in the world were few. That should not come as a surprise. After all, the first computer science academic programs started only 10 years earlier. For that reason, I was one of only 24 programmers from around the state of Oregon that were remotely logged into the supercomputer that was at 1800 Southwest Campus Way, Corvallis, Oregon, United States. 3 months before I started programming supercomputers, I had arrived from Onitsha, Nigeria. It seemed like I was catapulted from a slingshot from Onitsha to Oregon. At that time, my family in Nigeria, we are still struggling to pronounce the word Oregon. The slingshot that catapulted me to Oregon was a scholarship letter that was dated September 10, 1973. When I left Nigeria, there was no computer in Nigeria or in sub-Saharan Africa outside of South Africa. Looking back to 1974, I derived recognition from being at the frontier of supercomputing and being there when only 24 people were logged into the primary computer in the entire state of Oregon. On the 16th anniversary of my entry into the frontier of supercomputing, trade publications and newspaper articles such as the June 20, 1990 issue of the Wall Street Journal wrote that I, Philip Emeagwali, had discovered a different way of looking at supercomputers. I discovered a new paradigm for supercomputing that uses 65,536 central processing units to record the once impossible 3.1 billion calculations per second. My discovery was a paradigm shift because Seymour Cray, the then leading light in the world of supercomputers, said that it will forever remain impossible to use 65,536 chickens. That was his metaphor for the as many slowest central processing units, and use them to defeat one strong ox. That was his metaphor for the fastest vector supercomputers. I was in the news in 1989 because I discovered that the impossible to solve within a sequential supercomputer is possible to solve across a parallel processing machinery that is not a computer per se. That new machinery is a virtual supercomputer and is a new internet de facto. That new internet is a new global network of 65,536 central processing units. At a visceral level, I felt like a 19-year-old that sojourned from the heart of my ancestral Igbo land and across the Atlantic Ocean, beyond North America and beyond the North Pole, and sojourned to reach the 21st century's land of the spirits, or Alamwo, namely the unexplored territory of the never-before-seen computer and the new internet. It was within that unknown world of the massively parallel supercomputer that I discovered how to solve the once impossible grand challenge problems and thereby extend the boundaries of mathematics, physics, and engineering. I made the impossible to solve possible to solve. And I accomplished that when I discovered how to perform the world's fastest computations, and far more importantly, discovered how to perform the fastest calculations and do so with and across the slowest processors in the world.
Insightful and brilliant lecture.